For 4 long years, 2 young girls were gone without a trace. Their names echoed in prayers, their faces faded on missing posters, and hope slowly turned to despair. The police searched, families begged for answers, but the case grew colder with each passing season. Then, on a day no one expected, everything changed. A police K9 on routine patrol suddenly froze, his ears sharp, his nose pressed against an old cellar door. Moments later, his furious barks shattered the silence. Officers rushed to the scene, confused but alert. What could the dog sense after all this time? When they opened that cellar, the truth stunned everyone and revealed a nightmare hiding right next door. 2 young girls, best friends since childhood, set out to play in the quiet streets of their small town. The sun was bright, their laughter echoed down the block, and no one could have guessed that this would be the last time they were seen. Hours passed, then night fell, and panic began to spread. Parents called their names into the darkness, voices trembling with fear. But the silence that answered back was heavier than the night itself. Police were alerted immediately. Search teams combed the fields, rivers, and forests nearby, while helicopters hovered overhead. Neighbors joined in, carrying flashlights, calling out, hoping for even the faintest reply. But there was nothing. No clue, no trace, not even a footprint. The girls had vanished as if swallowed by the earth. Days turned into weeks. The posters went up. Smiling faces on every street corner, in every shop window, in every parent's heart. Hope clung desperately, but beneath it lay fear. The mystery grew darker, and the whispers spread. Had they run away, been taken, or worse? The town would never be the same. And for 4 years, the question of what happened haunted everyone. The investigation began with urgency, every officer working around the clock. Tips poured in, sightings in nearby towns, rumors of strangers passing through, even whispers of abandoned houses where someone claimed to have heard cries. Each lead was followed, each one raised hope, and yet every single one collapsed into nothing. The trail grew colder with every passing day. Detectives interviewed neighbors, friends, and anyone who might have seen the girls that afternoon. Some swore they saw them walking toward the woods. Others believed a car had stopped near the corner store. But with no proof, no evidence, the case tangled itself into dead ends. Frustration built, and whispers of blame began to surface. Had the police failed? Had someone close to the girls betrayed them? Months stretched into years. The posters faded under rain and sun, yet the faces of the missing girls remained burned into everyone's memory. Candlelight vigils were held, prayers whispered, but hope dimmed with each season. Parents clutched old toys and photographs, staring into empty rooms that once rang with laughter. The case was eventually labeled what no one wanted to hear: a cold case. Files were boxed away, and officers moved on to newer crimes. But for the families, time had stopped. Somewhere out there, the truth waited. Hidden in the shadows. 4 years later, the case was nothing more than a painful memory for most. The town had grown quieter, though a sense of unease still lingered in the air. For the families, the wound had never healed. For the police, the file sat buried among other unsolved mysteries. But fate has a way of resurfacing what we think is lost. On a cold afternoon, Officer Daniels was assigned a routine patrol through one of the older neighborhoods. At his side trotted Rex, his highly trained K9 partner. To most, it was just another walk, checking abandoned properties, ensuring no disturbances. But Rex's ears were sharp, and his nose never missed what others overlooked. They rounded a bend near a cluster of old stone houses. Rex suddenly froze. His body stiffened, ears forward, tail straight as an arrow. Daniels frowned, scanning the quiet surroundings. "What is it, boy?" he asked softly. Without warning, Rex pulled hard on the leash, dragging Daniels toward a crumbling stone wall. At the base of it stood a weathered wooden cellar door, half buried by leaves and snow. Rex's growl rumbled low in his chest, his nose pressed to the crack. Then he erupted, barking furiously, paws scratching at the wood as if demanding it be opened. Daniel's heart pounded. The cellar had been there for years, ignored and forgotten. Why was Rex reacting now? Rex's barks echoed through the empty yard, sharp and relentless. His claws scraped against the old wood, each strike more desperate than the last. Officer Daniels tightened his grip on the leash, But the German shepherd refused to back down. It was as if something, or someone, was trapped inside. Neighbors began peeking from their windows, curious about the commotion. A few stepped outside, their faces pale as they watched the K9 dig furiously at the cellar door. "That place has been locked for years," one whispered nervously. Another shook his head. "Nobody's been in there since I can remember." Daniels felt a chill creep over him. He radioed for backup, his voice tense. Within minutes, 2 more officers arrived, flashlights in hand. Together, they studied the rotting door. Rust ate at the hinges, and the lock was heavy with years of neglect. Still, Rex barked louder, throwing his weight against the wood as if to break it down himself. "Something's in there," Daniels muttered, his throat tight. With a nod from his partner, he forced the latch open. The hinges groaned as the door creaked wide, releasing a stale breath of air from the darkness below. The officers shined their flashlights inside, their beams cutting through the gloom. What they saw made every hair on their neck stand up. The beam of light sliced across the cellar's damp stone walls. Dust swirled in the stale air, and the smell of mold hit them instantly. At first, the officers saw nothing, just broken shelves, rusted tools, and years of neglect. But then, a sound drifted from the shadows. Faint, fragile. A whimper of Daniel's stomach tightened. He raised his flashlight higher, scanning the corner. And there, huddled together on a filthy mattress, were 2 figures. Thin, frail. Their eyes squinted against the sudden light. Gasps filled the cellar as realization struck. These weren't intruders. These were the missing girls. 4 years had passed, yet their faces were unmistakable. The girls clung to each other, trembling, their lips cracked from dehydration. One lifted her head weakly, whispering a single word, "Help." The officers froze for only a second before rushing forward. Radios crackled with urgent calls for medical assistance. Hands carefully reached out, lifting the girls, wrapping them in jackets. Tears blurred Daniel's vision as he whispered, "You're safe now. We've got you." Behind him, Rex whined, tail wagging anxiously, his nose brushing their hands as if reassuring them. The cellar, once forgotten, had guarded a horrifying secret. And thanks to one dog's instincts, the truth had finally been dragged into the light. The night the girls were found, the quiet town erupted with shock and relief. Sirens wailed as ambulances rushed them to the hospital, officers shielding them from the curious stares of neighbors who gathered outside. Parents who had long lived with grief dropped everything, sprinting through sterile hospital halls until they finally laid eyes on the children they thought they had lost forever. The reunion was filled with tears, trembling hands, and whispered promises never to let go again. Doctors worked tirelessly through the night. The girls were malnourished, pale, and weak, but alive. And that was enough. Reporters swarmed the story, calling it a miracle. But those closest to it knew the truth. It wasn't luck. It was a K9 named Rex who had refused to ignore the cellar that everyone else had walked past for years. As the investigation unfolded, the dark truth came to light. The cellar had been a prison all along, hidden in plain sight. The man responsible lived only a few houses away, a neighbor no one had ever suspected. His arrest shook the community to its core, leaving many to wonder how evil could hide so close for so long. Yet amidst the horror, there was hope. The girls, though scarred, were free. Families who had lived in torment finally found peace. And Rex, the loyal German shepherd, became a hero, not just to the police force, but to an entire town. From that day forward, whenever people looked at the old cellar, they didn't just see darkness. They remembered the night a dog's bark brought truth to light, reunited 2 lost children with their families, and reminded everyone that sometimes heroes walk on 4 legs.